because I found out that they voted for Trump for a third time. They do everything but say, I'm so sorry that I voted to take away your rights as a woman, as a queer person, and as a federal employee. I don't care, guys. I just want you to say that you're Nazis now.
So I think the more nefarious part of this is the part where these people are taking multiple innocent bystanders with them, like kids, or they're emotionally blackmailing people to pick a side, all while repeating the same few words or phrases like Nazi or you're taking my rights away. I say this because when you have tons of people who in lockstep are saying these same exact things, it's not because they all independently thought of this stuff themselves, it's because they're being told to say it. Here's The Guardian telling you to punish your family for voting for Trump in 2016. Here's them saying it again this year, but half walking it back, not because they had a change of heart, but because ostracizing Trump voters wasn't an effective strategy. Here's BuzzFeed sharing a bunch of stories and giving social proof to people who disown family and friends over Trump. And here's Joy Reid from MSNBC talking to a Yale psychiatrist who is telling viewers to cut people who voted for Trump out of their lives.
When you know someone voted that way, do you recommend, just from a psychological standpoint, being around them?
If you are going into a situation where you have family members, where you have close friends who you know have voted in ways that are against you, it's completely fine to not be around those people and to tell them why.
The most disgusting thing about this is that they're using a psychology professional to say it, which implies that it's the mentally healthy thing to do. And that brings us back to Raven.
Hi, I'm Raven. I'm a disabled queer communist.
She's also polyamorous and unemployed, so there's all of her tags. And of course, the purple hair and the septum piercing never fails to identify someone who is about to have an insane take. That being said, let's have Raven educate us on politics. But first, just for context, this interview was an hour long, but she only uploaded 9 minutes of it. So understand that even though this next moment occurs at almost the start of her video, Raven and her grandpa have been talking for a while.
Now that I've asked my questions and I've allowed you to speak, it's my turn to speak and read my summary, and I ask you to not interrupt. The series of questions was created to underline the interconnectedness of our personal and political lives. That's what I was trying to do. We cannot put politics to the side. The American empire was built off of black and indigenous slavery and genocide.
I mean, that's a really uninformed perspective on politics. Lots of places still have slavery or near slavery in the modern day, and I can't think of one that's not a third world country. You can't build a country as successful as America with slavery, and all the great innovations of this country came after it was abolished. Now, since you're a communist, I suggest that you look into Russia, a country that in the 1900s enslaved and mass murdered their own population under communism. However, slaves would so often damage or sabotage the things that they were creating, like railroads, that books like the Gulag Archipelago insists that slavery was actually more expensive than free market labor. America did not become a powerhouse because of slavery. America is successful because of its institutional limitations on abusers. Power is almost always eventually seized by liars, cheaters, and thieves. The countries that do well are the ones that have the best protections against that. This is described very well in a great book that I surprisingly found on the bookshelf of Hassan Piker, of all people, called Why Nations Fail.
Our system is not here to save us, it is here to exploit us. Capitalism is a cycle of exploitation. You are either getting exploited or you are exploiting others. If I allow somebody in my life that supports these ideologies, I just enable them.
She says this as she exploits drama with her grandpa for views in multiple videos. I wonder what her definition of exploitation is, especially considering that she's a follower of communism, which is one of the most exploitative and murderous ideologies known to modern history. Now, I'm sure these people know what a spectrum is since they use that word all the time. Politics is a spectrum of relative behavior. There's never going to be a perfect political system where everyone is perfectly happy and everything is okay. Political progress is about making things one step better than it was before, and you have to be realistic about who politicians actually are and how the game of politics is played. I tend to agree with a book called The Dictator's Handbook, where they say that generally the goal of politicians is to stay in power as long as possible while enriching themselves and their friends who got them into power as much as possible. In the book, this is understood as merely a fact of nature, and designing a system without that in mind will doom that system to fail. This is why the Founding Fathers of America created things like the Bill of Rights, which sets limitations on government power for the purpose of making tyranny more difficult.
I spent years educating you. If you truly unconditionally loved me, your politics would reflect that. you wouldn't have spent the majority of your life voting my rights away. That is not unconditional love. I will always be the child in this situation, and you will always be the adult, with many years on me. Allowing a relationship with you would allow you to believe that there are no consequences for the way that you vote. Again, this is not a debate. These are my boundaries.
Education? You aren't educating anyone in this video. You're talking at someone. Real education takes real care, patience, and kindness. Belittlement, shame, and guilt does not equal education. I'm assuming that Raven means these words to only apply to people who agree with her, because when people don't agree with her, she shames them for not voting correctly, talks to them like they're a child, and threatens abandonment for not having the exact same opinion that she has. And it's not like Grandpa Frank is dismissive of her. Clearly he listens and can accurately say what her values are when she asks.
Do you know what I would label myself politically?
Well, I would tend to think that they're neither, because neither one is doing the right things.
I wish she uploaded the full hour. I would have loved to hear how her grandpa responded to her questions. Instead, we got Raven going on a tirade the whole time. I mean, multiple times she says this is an interview, but anyone watching can clearly see that this is a tribunal where Raven is here to judge and chastise Grandpa for voting the wrong way.
My politics and my political life are completely intertwined. You can't vote away my basic human rights and expect a relationship with me. You just can't, Grandpa. I shouldn't have to sit here and list off all of the awful things Trump has done since he got in office. I shouldn't have to. It's my basic human rights that should horrify you at its core. We are drowning as a society. Fucking drowning.
We are drowning. Just drowning, guys. Going back to the Trump thing, though, if you're trying to educate someone, maybe you should list out specific examples of wrongdoing from Trump and back that up with evidence. What's this say? Rewatching this, I don't believe he can do better. I'm just trying to convince him he can. He's proved to me at his core he's a mansplaining, discriminatory supremacist. Damn, you're a real bitch. Grandpa just wants to play Scrabble and you had to berate him for an hour over nothing. You're lucky he's trying to spend time with you at all. Now, I watch videos of crazy people for a living, so I know that whatever she's complaining about is not the real issue. It's just a mask, if you will. So let's get to why Raven is actually mad at her grandpa for voting for Trump.
You should care about me and how I feel in our relationship more than you should care about the fucking economy. Because again, you know it's a made-up system that we made up, and it doesn't need to be here. We don't need to exploit people. The 1% doesn't need to keep making more money. Well, I have none. My county has already called me and told me that my EBT and my health care under Trump are now like being attacked, and I have to fight for my fucking life.
EBT, you're 24, get a fucking job. Go bag some fries. I mean, if you want to talk about exploitation, holy shit, nothing is more exploitative than forcing other people to pay your expenses so you can spend your whole day scrolling on TikTok. Oh wait, it appears she does have an excuse for why she can't work.
Under Biden and in states governed by vote, you saw the system deem me disposable. I wasn't allowed any cash assistance, I wasn't allowed disability. They didn't care about any of my mental or physical 15+ diagnosed disabilities. After that, I was forced to rely on mutual aid, which is an anti-capitalist ideology. Mutual aid you gave me. Mutual aid I survived off of.
Well, that's really ungrateful of you to treat your grandfather like this after he helped you financially or gave you mutual aid when you needed it. But okay, she's disabled. She has 15+ diagnosed physical and mental disabilities. Name them. Name one diagnosis you've received. Does she ever do that? No. I've watched tons of her videos, I've heard her repeat this line on disabilities multiple times, and she has not mentioned a single diagnosis. However, during one of the times that she claimed that she was too disabled to work, she said something about motor issues and a wheelchair, as if no one in a wheelchair has ever had a job before. So to be honest, I don't at all think that she's too disabled to work. Here's why. Now, it's hard to see because of all the text on screen, but you can see her using a screwdriver here, so clearly her hands work. Next, I have a video of her being strong enough to help move a washer. Then we have her painting, so she's able to do that. People pay to have things painted, and she already has her own mask. Here's a picture from not even a year ago where she not only is able to stand up, but also hold her fiancé up with her. Oh shit, she's actually able to pick her fiancé up and twirl her around multiple times. There are actually multiple videos of her dancing and displaying that her motor skills are just fine, and the government seems to agree that she's fine because they denied her disability.
When I became too disabled to work, they didn't care that I had been disabled my entire life. They didn't care about my 15+ diagnosed mental and physical disabilities. They looked at my age and they told me they would throw away my disability case and my cash assistance just due to my age.
This is justice. She tried to commit welfare fraud and the government told her to F off. I mean, it's not like she has any expenses anyway. She stated in one of her videos that she lives with her fiance's mom, she doesn't have any dependents, and she clearly can just go get a job. You don't need welfare. But not only does she not really have any expenses, she's even dumb enough to incriminate herself by openly bragging about that.
I don't know anybody that practices anti-capitalism in real life like I do. I don't have a job, I don't have a bank account, I don't have phone services, I don't overconsume, I don't consume anything that I don't need. I really do not ask my partner for anything that's not a necessity.
Yeah, this is all a lie. First, how are you filming videos and then uploading them to the internet without having some sort of agreement with a phone company or internet service provider? Second, makeup is not a necessity and you have a ton of it. I'm not stupid, I've been to a Sephora before, and I know that shit's expensive. Last, she has a Barbie collection, which is totally not materialistic or an expression of needless consumption at all.
We as a society will get literally nowhere near anti-capitalism until we, the consumers, stop over-consuming and overindulging in capitalism.
I also love how she calls herself the best anti-capitalist that she knows, as she has her girlfriend pay for everything while she sits around all day not working. Well, actually, spending your whole life mooching off of others describes Karl Marx quite well, so maybe she is a true communist at heart. But when people point this stuff out about how she's just lazy and definitely not too disabled to work, she tries to curse them through the internet.
And because the majority have not worked through their internalized ableism, I do have to note that you are always one accident or disease away from joining the disabled community, becoming too disabled to work under capitalism.
I mean, this is so stupid. In this same video, she gives a sob story about how a functional window kind of looks ugly because the contractor didn't redo the borders after the new window was put in. And after going on a tirade about how she is so moral, she essentially e-begs people to fix the window for her.
Or again, you can message me for my partner's Cash App. We have that window upstairs that needs to be fixed.
Pay for it yourself. Or, considering that you must have an insane amount of free time, how about you go onto YouTube to learn how to fix the trim? It can't be that hard to nail a few boards to a wall. Ask Grandpa Frank if you can borrow some tools. Though I'm not kidding, this girl is in her mid-20s and she has the mentality and the maturity of a 3-year-old.
Everything we could ever need in the entire world is free from the fucking ground. While the 1% is putting prices on shit that is free from the fucking ground. I don't get it. I don't understand your support of the system. I don't understand how you cannot see that your support of the system affects our relationship.
Right. Morality is when people work on farms for no pay, while I do nothing and get the fruits of their labor for free. This is slavery, you moron. You literally describe slavery as a moral good if it benefits you. Miss White Savior out here trying to save the world from capitalism with her Uncle Ruckus-ass takes on how labor should be organized. The only way to motivate large groups of people to work outside of basic necessity for no pay is to abuse them. But the abuse thing is going to make this next part make sense, where Raven goes full mask off on how abusive she is to her family.
Like, you understand. We've had talks. I know you get it. You have to change. I don't care how old you are. Like, I don't care. I seriously don't care. You could be 100 years old and I'd still sit down and have this conversation with you. And I'm having this conversation with you because I care. If I didn't give a fuck about you, I could have just blocked your number and never talked to you again, honestly. Just like I did Mom. Like, I am asking you to do better and show that you actually unconditionally love me like you say you do. Because the way you vote doesn't. And I know this is a hard pill for you to swallow. I am asking you to unwire years of propaganda that has been taught to you. And I know that's not easy. But if you loved me, you would.
This is called emotional blackmail.